Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So good morning, and well, in the words of what was it on the Truman Show? Good morning, good evening, and good night, something like that. So Truman Show was good. That's a good show to go over and get a lot of Ibn Arabi insights. It's quite amazing. It's like Inception, very, very strong. So we're waiting for one more person. I think I've got to make Marta a co-host when she gets here, but maybe we'll just dive in and then remind me to make her co-host later so she can have access to her mic. Okay, so, okay, let me just go ahead and, so now all is muted, and Aisha, if you could unmute your mic and then get us beginning with the Fatiha, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's look at our first slide, and I think we'll have Omar, if he could go ahead right away. He'll be giving us the Arabic and then the translation that we've come up with and he's come up with.
Just to say that Marta's here. So
good.
If you want to go ahead and yeah.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and do that. Good, thanks. Yeah, we'll get all these things worked out. There she is. She is uncharacteristically non-Swiss today, and because as you know, Swiss and German, 15 minutes early, but she made it, so that's good. All right, so Omar.
She's being Italianized.
She's being Italianized, and that's good too.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ أنتم بالعدوة الدنيا وهم بالعدوة القصوى والركب أسفل منكم ولو تواعدتم لاختلفتم في الميعاد ولكن ليقضي الله أمرا كان مفعولا ليهلك من هلك عن بينة ويحيي من حي عن بينة وإن الله لسميع عليم. So you are on the near side, while they are on the far side, and the mount is below you. And had you set an appointment, you would have missed it. But so that Allah may accomplish a matter already done, that the perished he caused to perish would be upon evidence, and the living he gives life to would be upon evidence. Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing.
Okay. Yeah, so this, as we were discovering when we were talking about this, is very, very intricate. I mean, all of the Quran is going to be intricate, but this just kind of shocked me and shocked us because we didn't expect this part to be quite so intricate, but it certainly is. Ibn Arabi is alluding to it with his poem and looking at the near side and the far side. So the hither side and the farthermost side. And so the side which is dunya, so dunya means the side that is closest to you. And so dunya is that the world that's close to us, and then akhirah is the other world. And so even though it's the next world, it's the one right next to the dunya. So this imagery is coming up, the near side and the far side. And then the idea of something that's maf'ul, something that's already been done. And so if you were to try to arrange this situation, it wouldn't have worked. And this is this is when on the path, this is something where we people on the path delight in, and that's how things happen which cannot be planned. And we were just talking about that last night, about someone who was traveling in the middle of the night in a featureless area to try to come to someone's house, and taking all these unmarked roads, and then yet in a few hours coming to the right place. So it's just quite amazing. And years ago, I was in correspondence with Nicholas Nassim Taleb, who wrote about the black swan, just fascinating person. And he was mentioning this, this sort of spiritual training, or riyada, or training or exercise, where you would, every time you come to a fork in the road, you flip a coin. And what this does is it helps you locate in you when you're the overseeing part of you, the soul of you, is telling you to do something. And then so flipping the coin sees whether you're doing this for your own reasons or for some other reason, or did you have a plan in the back of your head, and so on. So it's very fascinating to watch how we make decisions. And this also ties then into this free will, and do I have free will, or am I working on one let's see, necessitated event after another? And so flipping this coin is a way of understanding how that works. And also in the area of dreams, the difference between a daydream, we call it a daydream, and then another kind of dream. So a daydream is when you are cobbling together and putting together images, but you're directing those images. You're the one who's creating them. So the daydream is what's coming out. And the other kind are when they're given. And then this ties in also, Ibn Arabi loves to look back at the situation when God speaks on the tongue of his slave, God hears the one who praises him. Sami Allahu liman hamida. God hears the one who praises him. So this is something that the words were not cobbled together by himself, but they were given to him. And so he spoke up, spontaneously, and says, God praises the one who hears the one who praises him. So this is something else inside this verse. Another inside this verse is this bayyana, and bayyana is this is clarification, and it's the process of taking butter, and when you boil the butter and you scrape off the froth, the foam, and you keep scraping off the foam until what's left is clarified butter, is ghee. So this is this imagery of making ghee is very much in Ibn Arabi's mind when he's speaking about the Quranic bayyana, this clarification. It's separating things. So when you separate things, you see clearly. So this is somewhat like the analytical, when you cut something with a sword, that is a way of separating things so that they can be clarified. So now let's see how Ibn Arabi works and alludes to this verse. So he's saying, by the true dream of the greats, the true ones, but the associate of the opposite, the lie, do not trust the veracity of his dream. The sharp blade of truth at the farther side is the liar's alighting place, and his opposite is the truth, and opposite him is the hither side of the world. So in the verse, you have this ziddahu, opposite, and I've had to put the parentheses in there for us to follow what these opposites are. And of course, opposite, negative, a negative by times a negative is a positive. All of this is inside what Ibn Arabi is trying to have us see. So the farther side and the hither side. So this one, the hither side, is the dunya, and then this other side is opposite, it's the farther side. And then he just, boom, puts this in here. She is prophethood. So this is nabuwat, except she falls short of abrogating any law. So that is a prophecy which does not bring a law. And yet she is at a high step level. And yet this is an important thing called prophecy. So I saw swords unsheathed to fall upon the lower self. So the lower self is, in the Ilahis, we sing, lose your head, before love's flashing swords. And this is Abu Madian said, there's no one in the garden who has an ounce or a sesame seed worth of ego or arrogance. And so you lose your head. So, and love makes you lose your ego, makes you lose your head. So these flashing swords of love cut off this, I'm the boss. So in Arabic, you have rais, the head. So you have this, you're the head man. Cut off that head, cut off that being the head man. And so then you are in a state where then you enter into the garden. So I saw swords unsheathed to fall upon the lower self. And in my hand, a sword for guidance drawn near. So this drawn near is adnana, means made dunya, made close to me. So the sword and the sword, the one swords, and these are, I guess, the plural swords, the many swords are there to keep falling upon the lower self, to keep hitting at the arrogance of I'm somebody. So that one, you have to have lots of swords. And the other sword, you just need the one sword, guidance. That's the sword of guidance. So I never abandoned her. So this goes all the way back up to Nabuwat, to prophethood. I never abandoned her as an entity, nor as an effect by means of that sword, not in the next world, nor in this one. So here we go, this prophecy, Nabuwat, which doesn't bring a law, is never abandoned by Ibn Arabi as an entity, something that works, and as an effect, something that does something and has an effect by means of that sword. So having the sword of guidance, he's able then to navigate in this world and the next world. So the next world and in this one. So that's it's interesting how he puts those two together like that. So this is quite an amazing poem that I did when I first translated. I just kind of translate the words, and then I come back to it and I say, oh, this is something, and then later on I say, oh, this is even more something. So it just keeps going with the Futuhat. So okay, let me check this next one. So, and then this slide was from last week, and I don't want to be, saying that you didn't pay attention, but just everyone, you really need to see that this is quite amazing. So how many years have I wondered, what the heck is this 146th part of prophecy? 146. I mean, because he gives these ratios, and these are ones that I sit with for years, but this ratio, well, then he said, oh, it's quite clear. And he says, Aisha said, the first thing that Messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was initiated with was the revelation by vision. So this is ruya, that you see the dream. And he did not see a vision except she emerged like the breaking of dawn. So when the first ray of light comes, everything is released, and this dream comes, this vision comes. And she is the dream vision that God left for the Muslims, and she is one of the parts of prophethood, of Nabuwat. So then we have, nothing remains after me of prophethood except the good tidings, mubasharat. And mubasharat, mubashar and bashar and bishara, all of these words are when your skin takes on a new shade. So, and that's when you can get flustered or you can get delighted, and your skin takes on a slightly different shade. That different shade is called mubashara. And so it's a kind of a tingling goodness. And they ask, and what are the good tidings? Being very good to ask, what are the definitions? What are these things? O Rasulullah. And he said, the integrated dream. So Salih here is integrated. And Salih is integration means that things are put together in a particular way. If you think about politically or socially, in the US, they talk about melting pot. Yeah, that's been a fail. In Canada, I think they talk about mosaic. So in a mosaic, you would have each piece makes up this bigger picture. But for me, if you ask me what the most interesting social arrangement metaphor is, it's salih, which in Arabic is masalih, which is masala in the subcontinent, masala. So masala in the subcontinent is when all of the pieces come together. And so and masala is never, there's no formula. There's no recipe for masala. It's, you put a little bit of ginger, a little bit of this and that, and some cinnamon and some cardamom and all of these things. And when you're eating this delicious masala, you know, oh, there's the ginger. But it doesn't taste just like ginger. It tastes different because of what's around it. And the ginger then gives its flavor to what's around it. So not only do you not lose anyone, so every individual is there, every individual is better than they were alone. So this is amazing how an individual becomes better by being in a community. So that's masala. So that is the salih dream. It's when all of the parts of you come together and they're working as a whole. And the integrated person sees her. The salih person sees this dream, or she is seen for another. So this is when you dream, but it's for someone else. So you dream for someone else. She is one of the 46 parts of prophethood. So the prophethood took place over 23 years. 23 years is 46 half years. And the first half year, the first 6 months, was the ruya, this dream vision that Aisha said that Rasulullah ﷺ had. And then the rest of those parts are all these different sorts of revelation. And he got all of the different types of revelation. We don't have access to those. We have access to this one. And this one is one of the 46 half years of prophecy. Okay. Now, one of the things that what dream teaches us is that we see that the meaning is not, in a sense, it's not in the thing itself. The thing itself is a skeleton, and it's clothed with meaning. And in the same way, a letter is a shallow, hollow shell, a skeleton, until it's breathed into. So if I have a letter that goes like this, it's like an L. Until I say la, until I give it the vocalization ah, I can't say la. So there's no letter that doesn't have its vocalization, its life. And the story that Ibn Arabi tells, he tells about when Moses has the staff which turn into snakes, and the magicians make snakes, and the snakes are eating up the staffs, and the whole thing is going on, telling us that things are not only the way we see them. So we see this is a staff. Well, it could also be a snake. And Ibn Arabi is saying it's neither a stick nor is it a snake. It's an entity which can be clothed as a stick and clothed as a snake. So this is the story of Ulaim, who said the knowledge of the column. So he was turning this marble carbon into gold before everyone, and then he turned it back into marble. The knowledge of the column is more panoramic, so it's a more vast vantage point than what you are seeing. Therefore, be characterized by knowledge. So knowledge is what tells you which it is or what it is, and that it's neither one of those things. Essentially, its essence is something else, is a single entity. Thus, he taught them that the entities do not alter. So the ayin is the skeleton does not alter. And this is what is truly correct. That is, the stone does not go back to being gold because this core, so as with our bodies, can accept heat, and you say about it, it is hot. So my body can become hot, and so it is hot. So when God wants to clothe this gem core with the visible image of gold, he strips away from it the image of stone, and he clothes it now as gold. So this entity is clothed as stone or closed as gold. So the gem core of the column and the organic body, which was stone, is now gold, just as the hotness of heat may be stripped off the body, and it is not clothed in coldness. It is now clothed in coldness and becomes cold. The hot entity did not alter into cold, but the body, now cold, is simply itself, unaltered. It is what is now heated. So the entities have not altered. So, and this is how when we go into dreams, we see someone, and that someone can be clothed in all sorts of figures. It can look, that person can look so many different ways, and yet we say, oh, that's that person. And so this is something that the dream world teaches us, that when we're looking at this movie of life, these pixels are there, and the pixels are taking on different colors and different forms. And so we're seeing, oh, there is this. Here's a picnic that's being had. Here's someone with a bonnet. Here's someone with an umbrella. That umbrella is pixels, which happen to be colored a certain way to make a picture of an umbrella. So this is how we are reacting in this world, and we think that it's only in the dream world, but it's actually both worlds work this way. And this, both the value of nabuwat, of prophethood, is something that's called the Cloak of Prophecy, and so Ibn Arabi will explain that. So even though we have this part of prophethood, generally his people don't use the word nabi or prophet for themselves. So he says they don't call themselves prophets, but they are using prophethood. They have access to prophethood. So that's another reason it's called the Cloak of Prophecy, because we're not telling people, oh, look, here's a prophet. We're saying, oh, look, here's someone who had a true dream. And we all know that means that's part of prophethood. So now if we could sing this Ilahi.
Mind is love, soul is love, path is love, goal is love, Sharia, Tariqat, ways to know, ways to love, Hakikat, Marifat, to be reality, Hakikat, Marifat, pure reality. Eye of light deep in me, beyond all form, beyond all creed, heart of light within my heart, Sultan of love, holy King, dervish lover crying aloud, lost in ecstasy. Dervish lover wrapped within the cloak of prophecy.
Okay, the Cloak of Prophecy. And now, I think, Marta, you'll be reading this for us.
Whoever interprets the dream vision sees a formidable matter, and clarified for you is what you do not perceive in any other perspective. This is why Messenger of God used to, when he got up in the morning among his companions, he would ask them, have any of you seen a dream? You see, the dream vision is prophethood, and he used to love to see her among his mother community. But the people today are in the utmost of ignorance about this step level of prophethood, which the Messenger of God used to be so concerned for, asking every day about her. And the ignorant ones in this time period of mine, when they hear about some matter that occurred while asleep, they do not bother to raise their heads and say, he wants to make judgments based on dreams. This is just imagination, and what's that? It's only a dream. Thus, they ridicule the dream seers when they rely on dreams. This, all of it, is due to their ignorance of the dream's true station, and their ignorance that, in fact, while they were awake and functioning, actually they are in a dream, because the people are asleep. And in his sleep, this ignorant person is actually in a dream in a dream. It is like someone who sees that he's awake while he's sleeping, while he's actually asleep. And it is in his statement, the people are asleep. And is there a stranger, more wondrous prophetic report? The truths, as they truly are, have been thus clarified, and shown to be magnificent, is what the intellect always coming up short ridicules. Yes, this does not originate except from the tremendous, and he is the true.
Thank you. Yeah, so Ibn Arabi was, it's so heartening, I guess, to have him say that these problems are the same problems he's been having. Oh, look at all these people talking about their dreams, looking at dreams, and these crazy Sufis, madmen on the mountains, and so on. So it's not a new thing that we've had this experience. Okay, and so in a sense, to one last chance to try to talk to the people who are asleep. Ibn Arabi, when he quotes these hadith here, he has the long chain of hadith. So it's hadathana, hadathana, hadathana. So these ABC were told as a hadith, that ABC were told as a hadith, that AB was told as a hadith, that A, B, C, and D were told as a hadith, that Abu Hurairah said, that Messenger of God said, boom. And so he has this whole page just of all of this chain of transmission. So he's telling that you people who are really asleep and you keep thinking we're crazy for the dream, well, I'm going to tell you that the dream is what you're supposed to be listening to, and I'm going to convince you using your own hadith science, which you have said you accept. So part of this hadith science is that these are then authentic reports in the chain of transmission as well as in their context, and as well as for the people who can dream, they see that it's true from that level as well. When the end period nears, there will hardly be a dream vision of the Muslim which is false, and the most truthful of you in dream vision will be the most truthful of you in speaking. So this is the person who speaks as an integrated speech. So integrated speech is when you speak, what you see is what you get, you speak what you do, all of these things. And that person will then be the one who has the best dream visions as well, the clearest and most clarified dream visions. And the dream vision of the Muslim is one of 46 parts of prophethood. And the dream vision is threefold. There is the integrated dream vision, which is a good tidings from God, which we just saw, and the dream vision from the grief making of Satan, and a dream vision which the man speaks out to himself. So that's self-talk. In a sense, it's the fantasy or daydream. So when one of you sees something he dislikes, let him stand up and let him spit it out and not say anything to the people. So this process of spitting it out is to dislodge the dream from becoming reality. So that first verse that we saw way up on slide 1, maful, the thing that's been done, so by spitting it out, the thing that's been linked together unlinks and then becomes undone. And then from Abu Qatada, from Messenger of God, ﷺ, when one of you sees something he dislikes, let him spit out from his left side 3 times and let him take refuge in God from its evil. Then it will not harm him. And in the hadith, which is authentic from the Prophet ﷺ, indeed, the dream vision of the Muslim is on the leg of the bird, so held on the claws. As long as he does not say it, as long as you don't speak it out. When he speaks it, it falls down and comes to pass. So the moment you speak it, it's released, and then it falls down. And waqa is falling down, but also means coming to pass. So the Arabic imagery here is that when something comes to pass, it has fallen down. So in a sense, it's been drifting along, and then it falls down and comes to pass. So that's how the spitting it to the side and not speaking of it, the bird carries it off. And then it's interesting, the bird, tayr, is casting lots and a bird. So it's both the same thing. It's casting a lot, like casting a lot, and then it's a bird. So it's both of these things. So it's really these polysemous or these multiple meaning words. So learn that God has an angel in charge of the vision called spirit. And he is below the sky of this world, and in his hand are the image forms of the bodily spirits, which the sleepers perceive while asleep to themselves and others, and image forms which rise newly from these forms, that is, existent beings. So we talked about the daydream is when you cobble together things. So a daydream is when I put together images in the way I'd like to see them. And that putting them together we'll call that a daydream. The other dream is when the spirit gives you. So do you see how this is revelation, how this is prophethood? Because a spirit comes and gives you something, gives you these images. And spirit, ruh, of course, the ruh al-amin, which is Gabriel, the way Gabriel brings a revelation, in some same way, the spirit brings you these images, which are the true dream. So it's a revelation. The mechanism is revelation. So when human beings sleep, or if you are someone of the unseen, or someone annihilated, or with the faculty of perception, able to perceive on things behind the veil, the sensory things do not conceal you while awake from the perception of what is in the hand of this angel. That is the image forms he is presenting. So the spirit comes, the angel comes, presents you with images. And if you are asleep and having a true dream, you will receive those images in your dream faculty. And when you wake up, if you remember it, you've remembered what the spirit gave you. Or if you're someone of the unseen, the people of the ghaib, of the unseen, who can see things that are unseen to everyone else. Or someone annihilated. So annihilated here is that fana, and that means the head has been cut off and there's no ego, no arrogance. This person has annihilated. And so they can see while they're awake what the spirit is bringing, the images. Or with the faculty of perception, able to see beyond the veil. So later on, we'll look at a passage about. But this brings up, Ibn Arabi sees these things, and it's interesting because he always he tells his father, when his father was on his deathbed, the father was going in and out of death. In fact, they were saying they weren't sure when he died or if he had died. They said the pulse told us that he was dead, but the glow on his face told us that he was alive. So he was going in and out of death. And one of the things that he says to Ibn Arabi, the father says, all those things you used to tell me that I didn't believe, I see now that they are true. So all the things that Ibn Arabi had been seeing about where we go when we die, he had these near-death experiences, the father had, and was coming back and saying, everything you told me that I didn't believe, it is true. It's the way you saw it. So Ibn Arabi sees these things. And yet he always tells us in every chapter, learn, learn, learn. And so you think, well, okay, even if I don't see these things, I can learn. And then he says, but if we keep arguing with him, he says, well, you're telling us to learn something, but you see these things by some gift of being able to see into the unseen. And then he would tell us, I'm pretty sure because it's what he does, he says that the Prophet ﷺ said, if it were not for the bouleversement, the sort of agitation of your hearts, you would see what I see. And Ibn Arabi takes that. He says, if you would see what I see, if you were not so agitated of heart. So he has given us all of these techniques, like get these multiple swords and start cutting your lower self and start going into battle with your lower self. And if you do these things, then you'll be also someone who can see what he can see. Okay. These people will see with their faculty while awake what the sleepers see in their sleep. And of course, this is also that stereo vision we talked about, the faith eye and the sensory eye, both of them working together, see things that other people cannot see. So you can see it by the eye of faith and the sensory eye, or the sensory eye and an eye that sees behind the veils. Okay. So let's have Klaus read this poem that Ibn Arabi has, and then we'll go to the Ilahi. Thank you.
O sleeper, how dull you are, so sleepy, while you're being called. Be alert. The divine would take your place for what he called you to if you fell asleep. But your heart is asleep. So what he called you to and alerted you to in the world of existence, which will destroy you, however much you are dead to him. So look to your soul before your journey. Your provision is suspect.
Day Please awaken. You have been sleeping. Caravan of love. You all alone, you love, but awaken. You were not listening. Now you are lost in the desert all alone. Receive my wisdom, truly awaken. Come now to mystic love. Allah, Allah, receive my wisdom. Is there speaking? Come now to mystic love. Guide and await you, the friend is asking, do you desire the test of unity? Union awaits you, soul of your own soul. If you but sing this mystic hymn of unity, receive my wisdom, truly awaken. Come now to mystic love. Allah, Allah, receive my wisdom. Elijah is speaking. Come now to mystic love. Why are you seeking? Where are you going? Surrounded by the radiance of Allah. Here is a true path leading to union, accompanied by the mystic friends of Allah. Receive my wisdom, truly awaken. Come now to mystic love. Allah, Allah, receive my wisdom. Jesus is speaking. Come now to mystic love. Come now to mystic love.
Thank you. Let's look at that third line of the poem. The divine would take your place for what he called you to if you fell asleep. So this falling asleep, then, if you fall asleep and it comes at you and it's outside of your ability, but you've been put to sleep, you've been felled to sleep, then the divine will take your place. And this is from the guidance that when you go on a journey, you say, Allah, be my Khalifa for the ones I've left behind. So be my Khalifa, that is, stand in my place and take care of the family that I'm leaving behind as I'm going out on a journey. So if you were called and you are responding to that call and taking the journey, then Allah says that Allah will be the Khalifa, the Caliph, or the one acting behind you to take care of the family left behind. So that's how that works. And yeah, I looked at this, I found this passage, I came across this passage of just a few days ago, and I said, this has to go into it. So I took out 3 slides and put in this one, and you'll know, I guess, who we're talking about here. But so we just look at the first one is the definition of a mirage. It's a ladder. So a ladder or series of steps, a thing resembling a daraja, that is a ladder, just your standard ladder, upon which the souls ascend when they are taken from their bodies. It is said that there is nothing more beautiful than it, so that when the soul sees it, she cannot refrain from making her exit from the body. So this is seeing this beautiful ladder, and you cannot refrain from climbing this ladder. And then this other definition down here is khadid, which is beautiful. What a choice of words Ibn Arabi has here. Something placed in the ground. So when a gift of food was brought to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he, not finding anything upon which to put it, said, place it on the ground, meaning the earth, adding, for I am only a slave. I eat as the slave eats. So this chapter that we're looking at, 307, I guess, learn, my dear friend, that God made from the sky to this earth ascending ladders to the count of the created beings. That is, each person, each of us has a ladder, which is, it's an ascending ladder. We each have it, each individual. And there is no place in the skies to place a foot except it is inhabited by an angel who is celebrating the praises of God and remembering who, using whatever has been defined for him as his dhikr. And learn that God has in the earth angels of this kind also, never rising to the sky. So these are the angels that never go up to the sky, ever. And there's an angelic family in the skies who never descend to the earth, ever. Each has learned his salat, his prayer, and his tasbih, his celebration of God. So let me go ahead and put this over here. So this, I came across this thinking also about Ibn Arabi talking to his father, and this is the passage that I came through to this chapter here. Thereupon the Arif is one who recognizes the divine everywhere. Thereupon the Arif, the divine command, this Amr Ilahiyah. So this Amr, this command that's coming through, up and down through this ladder for each individual. This divine command clothes him in vestments of beautiful courtesy. And the divine presence is in his reception of the vestments, as also light and splendor. All that which the divine command will use to ascend him along his ladder. So this is the cloak that's put on top, a cloak of light and Baha'i splendor, which is what will be used by the divine command to ascend up this ladder. The angels of the upper skies are in wonder, amazed. God stuns his animals, his angels with him. Uttered is, this one is a slave placed in the ground. So that's that word khadid, placed in the ground and placed in the lowest of the low, asfala safilin, compared to all of you angels. But his alighting place had no effect on him, and his home place had no force over him, and the manifold veils of his did not veil him from me. He pierced through every veil, and he looked at me, and he received from me. So how would he be if he was like all of you angels, with no coarse element-based light-blocking veils? Then the audience listening, the angels, begin to utter, Subhanaka, glory be to you. This is your supreme goodness, singled out for whoever you wish from among your worshiping creatures as a gracious gift from you and merciful kindness. And you are the one possessing tremendous goodness. Okay. Now I need to make sure that we've got this sound. Now we've got the sound, I hope. Okay.
Nothing is said, nothing is heard, and my heart is dancing with the universe. Nothing is said, nothing is heard, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. Nothing is said, nothing is heard. is dancing with the universe. Nothing is said, nothing is heard, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. Nothing is said, nothing is heard, and my heart is dancing with the universe. Nothing is said, nothing is heard, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe. La ilaha illallah, and my heart is dancing with the universe.
Yeah, on on Saturday night, after every one of my dreams, I was what no eye has seen and no ear has heard. So I think that's the nothing was said, nothing was heard. So, okay. Okay, thank you. So go ahead and put raised hands or chats or whatever. We have a few minutes to, we can talk about things. So.
Shweb, I have a quick question. It's Rahmana.
Yes, hello, Rahman. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello. So I heard the word Baha'i for splendor. Is that the same word as for the Baha'i brethren?
Yes, yes, yes. So Baha'u'llah and Baha'i. Yeah, so Baha'i is this splendor. And I think in the Ilahi, it's what we say is splendor, I think is the word that's being translated. So yeah, so that's Baha'i or Baha'u'llah and Baha. Yeah. Good.
There are a couple questions in the chat box.
Okay, okay, that's like, good. Yeah, so why is the dream associated with the gender of femininity and not masculinity? Yeah, that's going to be a huge, huge thing to explore because in a sense, I think in the West, is it sometimes, well, if we have the moon as feminine, and so I know that some of the sort of archetypes are that the moon is feminine, and from a male point of view, that, you know, confusing, and we don't know what she really wants and what she really means and all these kinds of things. So, but in Arabic, the moon is masculine. So kind of that throws that out the window. So that's something. And the sun then is feminine in Arabic. So it's just going to be a very loaded and have lots of things from all different perspectives. So there's not one thing and not the other. So, and certainly, part of the thing that the dream teaches is the place beyond gender and beyond identities and beyond who I think I am and all these kinds of things. So certainly we're moving into that. But yeah, I keep watching this with Ibn Arabi, with the moon and the sun being masculine and feminine. And in the same way with letters. Letters have gender, and sometimes he switches the gender just so that he can keep you saying, this is very fluid, everyone. So don't go fix that the Ra is feminine or not masculine, because sometimes she's masculine, sometimes she's feminine. And that's why he does that also in the law. He says when he's menstruating, so when he's menstruating, he should, and so you're saying, okay, this is clearly not something that is, we're going to be stuck in a gender or a biology. How does Ibn Arabi say, what about the swords that we battle our lower selves with? Well, this is, throughout the Futuhat, that he's very much always giving us very practical advice. So the swords that battle the lower selves are all the practical advice of, for instance, service and things like that. That the ways that we learn not to put ourselves forward. And remember we had, we had Fatima binti Ibn Muthanna from Sevilla, when she says, I don't know why God has chosen me and me, who is just like a child of Adam Eve. I'm just like everyone else. So it's very clear that throughout, and most of our societies, I think, have forgotten that or have lost it, that we're all the same. We're all in the same boat, that we're all children of Adam Eve. And so no one is physically or, better than anyone else. And therefore, since we're not physically better than anyone else, that's a good way to become humbled, instead of thinking I'm so great. So he always has that. And Rais, this idea of head, very important, because you chop the head off when there's a problem. And then he also has this takallaba, which is fighting between each other like dogs. So there's like dog fights. He said, why are you guys fighting? And so he looks at that and he says, can you now see that that's your lower self? So whatever sword it takes, get rid of it, work on it. So there's no physical ascension for us. Then how do you describe ascension to us in the sky and divine ascension? So Ibn Arabi is saying that the night ascension of the Prophet ﷺ was physical, because that's how he felt desolate. And so he called out, and when he heard the voice of Abu Bakr, he was comforted. He says that the rest of his ascensions were dream ascensions, and those are the ascensions that we have, dream ascensions. But because everything that we're seeing in those worlds is based on what we have experienced in this world. And that's why when we come from pre-eternity, am I not your cherisher? We say yes, and come into the fetus in the womb. We need to be there for one day, or we need, and one day from there, all the way up to 100 years walking around on the earth. That's the period, some period in there, in order to gain enough data so that when you are in the imaginal world, you can see things using the data that you have. So you have to see the color red, so that when you see something over there, you can say, oh, that's red, based on what I saw when I was here. So that's why it sounds very physical and palpable, because Ibn Arabi is saying you're basing this on what you've seen here in the dream world. And does the dream world, what effect it has? He says, yes, the dream world can come back and smack you in your body while you're sleeping, and you wake up with the scream, or you have a sex dream, or all these things. So that's the effect of this place on this physical body. Okay. Yeah, and then Khadija, the third line, that last one, I talked about Allah replacing one. Yeah, this is really, I just saw it today. So the idea is that so he's saying if you're asleep, but he said, but if you're asleep this way, in other words, if Allah puts you to sleep, and it's not just you're drowsily dull. See, that was the thing that when we had that poem, that dullness. So it's not the dullness or you're just sort of moseying along and blah. No, it's bonk, you're put to sleep. And so that's because Allah knows full well our configuration. So we're put to sleep so that we will have the true dream. And that if you're in this situation, while you are exploring, journeying through the dream world, the family left behind, which is your body and the people next to you, they will be taken care of by a Khalifa, which is Allah. So Khalifa, Caliph, Khalifa means min khalf, from behind. So the Khalifa is the one who from behind him, someone's acting. So here's Adam, and then behind Adam, the Khalifa, Allah, is acting. So if you go on a journey, the dua that you give is you say, Allah be my Khalifa, so act from behind me for my family when I am gone. And so when I fall asleep in this way and I'm journeying to the other world, then be my Khalifa to take place and guard my body and the family while I'm gone. And this is Ibn Arabi says, and that's how when he says that someone could roll over and injure a baby. And he says, and I've seen this myself. So it could injure a baby, and I've seen this myself, and then wakes up in order to take care of that. So that is this overseeing part of us. And that's that when we're journeying, someone, Allah, or he'll give an angel, will be there to make sure that your body and your family of the body is safe. And that's the Khalifa. And it's so beautiful because Khalifa, we always think of human beings having Allah acting behind them. Well, what this is Allah with a human being acting behind them. So he loves to give us, who's the Khalifa here? So, and Nasri, I think from Malaysia, inshallah, is dream describe the reality of what we can't see or what's going to happen. So predictive dreams or what's actually happening. So what we kind of call the sort of wish fulfillment dreams today, those are in a sense daydreams or things that we've cobbled together. We've put them together in order to seize things. And those can also seem predictive. So this is, again, if it's my lower self, which is in charge of this dream, then it's a fantasy, it's a daydream, and I might have all sorts of thoughts about it. Those will not be an integrated dream because I've not been integrated. It's only been a part of me, this lower self that's been making this dream happen. And then the predictive aspect is that all dreams are true. And so when they come, the bird holds them in the claws. And as the bird is flying, if it's something bad, then I don't want to say it. And I need to spit to the left and not speak and let the bird carry it off. So it was true. It was predicting something. But because I didn't, what do you call that? Sort of embody it or incorporate it or make it real, it flew off. But if I try to make it real, then boom, it falls and it hits the ground. And so then it happens. And so this is part of why when the person came to the Prophet ﷺ and wanted to confess the adultery or whatever they had done that night. And the Prophet was very angry because he said, why are you saying this? The angels have spent the entire night covering up what you've done. And now you're speaking it. So this is why we watch what we say. The Sufis are very careful about watching words because words make things happen. And so you want to not put out there things that shouldn't be said. And I've been translating the word munkar, when you have munkar and ma'ruf. So munkar is like bad things, but it's actually unspeakable things that shouldn't be spoken about. Because when they're spoken about, then they gain a reality. And we see this politically with the internet. The moment, people used to have bad thoughts about other people, but they didn't say them because it was unspeakable. And you don't say that in polite society. And now you get on the internet and everyone, oh, that guy said it, so now I can say it. And they say all this garbage stuff comes out. This is why it's called unspeakable, at least today. Maybe 100 years ago, we can call it the unmentionable or the bad or some other translation. Nicole, a question from the Surat al-Takathur. no, you are not going to know. Can we look at that? Let's look at that another time. I'll go ahead and look at it and try to see what comes up with that. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Yes.
Sorry.
Go on.
I just wanted to ask a question on, you know, the concept of the Sahil, the integrated person that you talk about. And I suppose it's combining everything. When you say that people might dream for another person, is that because the other person isn't quite at that integrated level to be able to receive the dreams themselves? Or also could it be linked to when you just mentioned earlier about we need to have the data from kind of this world, and if we can't connect it to what we've seen, and therefore we can't interpret or even remember it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is something to turn over to Baki, probably. Well, I think all of those are true. Sometimes the other person is not a good dreamer. So if someone is not trained and practiced with the dream, they might not remember dreams very well. And so it's certainly true that when the Prophet ﷺ is saying, "Did anyone dream anything last night?" What he's doing is he's making everyone say, "I hope I dream something tomorrow," because look how happy he was when someone dreamt something. So it is something you're trained to do. You have to look for dreams. I get the ones that are powerful, 3 every few years. I mean, but you've got to look every day for them, every night for them. So there is something about someone dreamed something because the other person isn't able to remember dreams very well. But second is that they see things that the other person might not have. They have data that the other person might not have. And that happens within communities. So the community, someone who knows what the community needs, receives a dream and then says that, or has that received by someone else. That person said, "I had this dream, but I have no idea what it means." Then this person says, knowing what the community has with data and what it needs, your dream is saying this. And so both of those are the case, I think. But it's certainly, and then of course, so we get so excited about all these things. We want all these things. And then we have the people who are poo-pooing us saying, "Oh, they're just talking about dreams and imagination." So, but then it's so reassuring that Ibn Arabi says, we've got that in my day too. And the same way with fiqh, with the Islamic law interpretations, Ibn Arabi says, and they do this and they do that. Don't they know that the principle of law is that it should be easy? He just gets so upset at everyone. I said, good, someone's talking about this finally. So that's good. Omar, I think,
Yeah, I have a nagging question. It might be a very stupid one, but it's really nagging on me. What makes the form, what makes the pixels more stable in this state as compared to the dream state or other imaginary state behind the curtain? They're not fully stable in the state, obviously, because we've seen that the stick and the snake, that thing can share these two pixels or these two forms, or the ayn or consciousness can share these two forms. So obviously they're not 100% stable, but nonetheless we live in a much more stable reality, in formal stable as the form, as the pixels, as compared to the others. And we take it for granted. Yeah, of course, this is physics, so this is not going to change. We take it for granted, but really, I mean, going beyond that, what makes it more stable? What relationship with the essence, what consciousness or awareness makes this so stable to the extent that if we want to change it, we can't?
Yeah, well, that's that whole, the big question about mechanical classical physics and quantum mechanics, quantum physics. Where's the line? That's where the question is coming from, because we learn that these are learned. We learn that the world is stable because when we come into this world, we don't think it's stable, and we don't think that we know lots of things, but we don't think that that X is caused by Y. We don't think that there's cause and effect that's just ironed in. And so this idea of why we see stability, part of it is this, in Arabic, the sabab, the asbab. And these are ropes. They're not just reasons or motives or motivators, they're ropes. And so Allah has set down ropes saying this is how things work. If this happens, this will happen. But that setting down of ropes, that gives us the idea that there's stability. And at some point, we begin to think that the ropes are so fixed because they keep doing the same thing. And so then we have to be able to see beyond the ropes and say that someone put that rope into place. And so there's that. But then the idea of why the quantum world is so very different than this classical world. One of the answers is that the classical world is doing things so many times over and over and over again that each individual moment it was quantum, but in the aggregate, they come together and you say, oh, that's something that happened. So we're seeing, and Ibn Arabi says, we don't see that the time is quanta. These are different measurements. These are quantum pieces of time. But we see them as a series of times. And this series is that every pixel then becomes like it or not like it, the next pixel. So if we were to go way down to the femtosecond, way down to the tiniest pieces of time, we would say, oh, here's a pixel that's red, and now it's going to blue, or now it's going to orange. So it's going to something like it or something not like it. And we think, oh, wow, it's a very unstable world. Who knows what that pixel is going to be next? But if you think about the femtosecond, that means that there's 10 to the 15 quantums happening in 1 second. So this chemical reaction or something, at every moment, it's unstable and it's a new thing, it's a new creation. But once you take 10 to the 15 trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of these events in 1 second, then we say, oh, look, it's very stable because there wasn't anything really dramatic that happened. So stability is over a long stretch of time. And Ibn Arabi keeps cautioning us about that. And he says that when the Sufis say, when you say you said, the first you is not the same as the second you. So it's a training to say, on the long run, it looks like this person is a good person. This person is a bad person. But at the moment to moment level, it's completely open of what's happening. So we're encouraged not to be judgmental, not to think that there's stability, because they could change at any second. So it's sort of like, I think the aggregation, this huge accumulation of events, all of them very slightly different from the last one, gives us the impression that it's solid and unchanging and immutable. But and it is in one way, but it's not in the other way. So yeah, no, it's a very nagging question. It's a good. It's powerful.
Thank you.
I think Richard has a hand up. Let's.
Yeah, just a couple of general points about sleep and dreaming, not directly related to what you said, but just general points. I don't know if you're familiar with Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. And this man has made groundbreaking research onto the physiological reasons why we sleep. And in short, he has demonstrated that we absolutely have to sleep. It's as important as drinking and eating and breathing, which wasn't appreciated until his work. And in particular, he establishes also the importance of dreaming within sleep, because as you know, we have non-REM sleep and we have REM sleep. And they're both important. You need both, but the one you really need, if you like, is REM sleep, dreaming sleep. And then I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Bernardo Kastrup. Do you know him? No, Bernardo Kastrup's a man well worth looking at. So he is plowing a very lonely furrow, I think, as a philosopher. He's trying to establish idealism as the only reasonable sensible philosophy. So he, to his own satisfaction, and he's very persuasive in his arguments, shows there's only mind, there's nothing else. One universal mind. Everything else is just some sort of manifestation of this, but it's actually mind. So all you see, he's saying, is you only see mind. And one of the, of course, he says, for most people, this is going to be very difficult to understand. But as a way of trying to persuade people, this is a reasonable way of looking at things. He says, look at dreams. When you're in a dream, things look very solid and real. But of course, they're not, because they're just dreams. So what you're seeing in a dream, clearly, is just mind appearing and dressed up as if it's solid. Well, actually, when you're awake, he said, it's the same thing. So he does focus, he's got a lot more to say about dreams, but he does use it as an argument to help people come into his way of thinking, that dreams then, the real world, the waking world, is also, in a sense, a dream. And so if you think that things look very solid in this life, waking world, well, you thought so when you were asleep as well, didn't you? So why are you now persuaded they're solid? So well worth looking at the work of Bernardo Kastrup. Unfortunately, I think, well, not unfortunately, a lot of what he says, in my view, corresponds with and is consistent with the ideas that we're looking at. But he does not seem yet himself to have spotted this. And I think I want to alert him to it. But yeah, have a look at Bernardo Kastrup.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, and when they talk about that holographic universe, the idea is that it's all two-dimensional, but we supply the depth. That is, that we are the ones who say, we fill in that there must be depth. And again, this is what infants already know. So infants come out knowing that there is depth because they are coming from being able to see, you see a picture and you know there's something behind that picture. And that's something but there's not anything really behind that picture. You filled in that there's something behind that picture. Yeah.
I wanted to.
I'll look for these one, definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Sure. I wanted to answer why, which I don't have the answer really. So I think we should pose a question to Shakafaya about why do people get dreams for other people. What came to me is we are a mystical body. So we are all related. And so some dreams come to us for the community, not only for us. And we all remember dreams that are affecting more than what is going on in our own home family. What also came to me is we may receive a dream for someone very close who may be in poor health or not able to remember, as you said, and some people may have an ability for it, being more open. I don't know, like some people are open to other things. So I really think we need to ask maybe Ali, who is present here, if he knows, because I think Ali may have a better idea than me, and I don't know if he is still here. But we'll ask Sheka also.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. The societies often can have a role that these are the dreamers for that society. And, we have someone who's a dreamer for the community and just somehow is just the membrane is very thin and they pass into that state and they see these dreams that it's a gift and it's a role that they can then play in the mystic body. Yeah. Ali Rahman, are you here right now? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Baki dropped out. I only said that maybe I heard Ali Rahman can know. I didn't get the question.
Oh, yeah, about the we know from the hadith that people are dreaming. Sometimes the dream that they dream is for someone else. And so they dream a dream for someone else. And we're looking more at that, why that is. Is it because not everyone can remember their dreams, or is it dreaming for the mystic body, or all of these questions?
I think that what I heard from Sheikha saying about Effendi, I think they're both and maybe more simultaneously happening. Because that's why when a dream happens in a community, waking dream or waking vision or sleeping vision, sleeping means that we are in a sleep and we share in a community. Some we don't share because the reason we don't share maybe might put on somebody in a spotlight in a certain way that they may not be in front of community, may be not conducive for their well-being. So that's why we avoid those. But mostly we share dream because Effendi said that dreams is for a whole community. It's like a banquet. You go there and you can only take as much as you can. Like only you can put so much flour on a pizza dough. Only gonna take as much as it needs. You can put more or less. So dream is like that. I think it's multi-dimensional. It's both personal and for the whole community and also for the cosmos and unicos. It goes all the way. It's a banquet, how much you can take and in what level one can eat. I may be allergic to something, but maybe you maybe benefit from that. So I think that this appearing and disappearing is such a fantastical frequency that it's incomprehensible for me. I mean, I can only calculate maybe 3 zeros. Beyond that, I cannot. So I feel that it's like a binary code, zeros and one. Every time is on and off. It's on. You can have combination of zeros and one in ways in Allah's hand. It's infinitely possible, and then combination of zeros and ones, we come on at the same time. We are in the same kind of resonance, but completely different frequencies. Completely. So every time we come on, even though it's Shoaib is Shoaib, Ali Rahman is Ali Rahman, but it's the combination of zeros and ones that comes on every moment, like 1 to 10 to the power of minus 28 or 1 to the power of minus 28. In that frequency, I feel that every time it's a new combination of a binary code of zeros and ones, what's on, what's off in every one of us. And so the dream is safe because not waking visions, but the sleeping vision, sleeping dream is safe because I feel that bypasses our ego, inshallah, inshallah. But Effendi said the dream is for a whole community.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I do what you said. Well, you said everything you said, but that last one, yeah, that it bypasses that lower self. It bypasses the ego, and that's the difference. And so that's the training. That until you're trained to be able to see these dreams while awake, the safest place is to see them while you're asleep. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I understand any language based on the vocabulary I have from that language and the knowledge I have that language. And dream is a language, and there are people that are expert in this language. And Sheikh Faria says from Effendi, dream is like it was a matrix. You enter this hallway, it's full of all kind of doors. Which door do you open to that dream takes that reality. It creates that sacred geometry and resonance and becomes multiple reality. And that's why we don't interpret our dream, which is the hardest, not to interpret ourselves. And that's why we share our dream with our guide, with our sheikhas. And they open the door that is most relevant for us in that moment. And they're guided to do that because they are hires of the Prophet. It's like you are, like Ibn Arabi is. They're all hire of that one single love that emanates itself as everything.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
No wonder, that's why I love to sit next to Ali Rahman. Everything comes to me. You can go from love to 10 to the negative 28. You think, wow, it's beautiful.
Well, the thing is that, somebody asked, especially Zati, bless her soul. I can't believe it. She asked what's love and sentimentality in one of the zikr. I thought, then I saw that love is not time bound. And Hafiz says, love is only in loving love. Mm-hmm. Love is in love with itself, and that's why I say that we worship the wine for wine itself, wine here being love.
Yeah.
And then there was sentimental love is an objective love, love that has an object. Love itself is only object itself. That's why it's always an ing, loving, awarenessing, being. It's always an ing, and that's what love is, and completely free of time, space, all of that. An objective love, which is necessary to steer up for us to get close by the things that, by loneliness and dependency. And that's the role of the sentimental love. But sentimental love, when we see the footprint, we see that acknowledgement of beloved past, but the footprint doesn't let us see what we know. We don't. That's why Rumi says he doesn't know what love is. But he's one person, he couldn't stop writing about love. And people say we don't know anything, but they write so much. Paradoxical. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, now I understand so much more. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Well, and Martha, you just got the beautiful explanation, answer to your question. It's a buffet, and some food you can't eat certain foods, gluten sensitive, allergic, whatever. And so someone else has to eat that for them and tell them, this is what you're eating. So there it is. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. So good to see you. Oh, from New Orleans. Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So from last time you were talking about dependency and humility or loneliness. And I've been thinking about that, and I have a struggle with sort of pretending to be humble in order to try and seduce Allah, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, haha, I'll be humble, and then Allah will I'll get him. And I don't really know how to work with that, because it always seems to be a false humility. But how to achieve a genuine humility without a goal of getting this attention? I was wondering if you had anything to say on that.
You know, that's the 10,000 pages of the Futuhat. Because every time he says this is good, that is, it's good to flee, like flee things that are not good for you, whatever. And then he says, and then it's good not to flee. And he says, and it's good to be patient. And then he says, and then it's good to be not patient. And so everything that looks like it's good one way has its opposite. So that's just the whole story of our lives, is that everything that sounds good, like humility and patience and all of these, and thankfulness, there are also times when it's appropriate not to be thankful, not to be humble, not to be, and so he definitely understands that our selves are quite wise and quite intelligent and quite strategic. They're figuring out how to make us do different things. And so these selves, definitely that it's a long work with them. And that's why he says that there's one, in a sense, he said there's one sort of guidance, and then there's the many, many sorts that go to your lower self. So there's just not one, and you don't just cut it off and then that's it. It's there tomorrow as well. So, so thank you for that. Thank you all. It's so beautiful to see everyone, and may Allah bless you all. And so good to see. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So.